If you decided that you absolutely have to have a piece of cereal that is not spherical, I wanted to make this extra bonus video to show you how to create rotation on your particles. The reason this is a little extra challenging is that the spherical cereal we're seeing simulated in the previous videos have no rotation on them. So if I create an instancer out of this Cheerio shape instead, and then you'll see that as they fall, they're falling completely flat. There's no rotation on them at all. They stay in this shape. You'll also see that the collision shape for the solver is still spherical. So this is the shape that is being simulated. And if I add a little bit of volume to this, it's never going to be exactly the same size as my Cheerio, because it is going to be taller than our object is thick. Now if I set this to self-collide and turn off that collision thickness, you'll see this is what we're getting. I created this plane to give us something for our objects to bounce off of, so we will make this a passive collider. And you'll see that even after it hits this passive collider, they just slide in the same orientation. So by default, particles are not going to calculate their rotation. We have to do a couple of extra steps to make it calculate rotation. First, let's select the M particle. You'll see that we have an option for rotation. If I turn on compute rotation, now the particle simulation is capable of calculating the rotation of these objects. But even though we turned it on, it's still not causing the objects to rotate. That is because this rotation is not being transferred over to the instances. So if I go down to the instancer geometry replacement, you'll see that instancer is calculating the position, but it's not calculating the rotation. If I turn rotation to rotation PP, that stands for rotation per particle, then we start getting some rotation on each particle. However, it just kind of seems random. Now, the difficult part of this is, again, the objects that are simulating are not these donut shapes. They're spheres. And so if we look at our solver display again, this is the thing that is simulating. So it may help to actually make that object a little smaller than our actual instanced object. And that way, even though they're going to kind of go through each other a little bit, we're not going to have those gaps in space in between them. And so now, if we look at this simulation, it's going to look much better. It's still not going to be perfect because you notice that our objects are rolling once they get here. And so that's not exactly how cereal would simulate, but it's going to be much closer than them laying completely flat. So if you wanted to do a shape that is not spherical, you have to use this method in order to get a better solution.